Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. Mark Trible, joined as always with Coach Tim McAneney. We got our special guest is back again this week.
He's in the green room.
He's in the black and green room. Our guy John Emel, he's going to come out, West Deptford head coach and the president of West Jersey Football Coaches Association, going to help us break down some of the teams that are still left. We're down to state semifinals, Mac. We've got. When you look at this weekend in South Jersey, we've got I guess technically South Jersey, we've got 4 games in the publics, 2 in the non-pubs. A lot of interesting stuff happened last week. We're going to go through all the action. We got some good knots of the week.
Got some good combinations of South and Central in there. I'm sure some Central folks are happy that, we always pound our chest down here, and some of the Central teams, showed up well.
They absolutely did, Mac. And you saw 2 games this weekend. I only saw 1, but we saw different games, so we'll be able to give a little bit of feedback on that, and we'll look towards what we think are the keys to victory for these teams that are looking to advance to the state championship. First, I want to give a shout-out, of course, to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their presenting sponsorship of the show. Established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. In less than 3 years, the association has done just that. They created the Battle at the Beach, which you look this weekend, a lot of the programs still playing have participated in the Battle at the Beach over the first 3 years. They've donated close to $80,000 to date to provide scholarships to the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for your sponsorship of the show. Also have to shout out our buddy Davo Sullivan, Sully, the founder of South Jersey Glory Days. If you're watching this on Facebook, this is his page. He's got a lot of good content. Brian Tortella's done a great job this year. Everything he's added to the mix, covering field hockey, a lot of different things, football. Visit sjglorydays.com for Brian and Sully and myself, our content as the playoffs keep on rolling here. Also have to give a shout out real quick here in the front. Chris Baker has done a great job all season. Thank you, Chris. I see you're here in the comments, always watching, always excited for the show. He compiles a lot of our statistics, tracks down a lot of our knots of the week. Thank you, Chris, as well for all your help during this season. Of course, we got Rod back here mixing it all up, making it all happen. Perfect scene here at Studio B to talk state semifinals, Mac. But let's go back and take a look first at the Central Jersey Group 5 Championship, Mac. I was there last week in our game of the week at Washington Township.
A lot of cannons.
A lot of cannon powder, a lot of cannon fodder. I'll tell you this, the Minutemen party like it's 1995. It had been 29 years since they won a sectional final.
Crazy to think that. I mean, we know they've had a little bit. If you would have said, I would have probably said 10, 15 years. I don't know about 29. And that's, a lot of cathartic. I read your story. Yeah, that 103-yard touchdown pick.
We're going to get to that.
Very cathartic.
Very cathartic, 100%. I want to give a shout-out first and foremost before we go through the game here to Atlantic City. Great season for them. They were looking for their first sectional final since 1999. Ice Cup, Sinai DeGraff and Raid, excellent career, has been a foundational piece of rebuilding that program. You can still see him play on Turkey Day against Holy Spirit. Quarterback, Hickey Roseborough clearly wasn't 100%. But I got to hand this all to Washington Township, though, all things aside. Mac, they came out, and the thing that I love about this Township team is they're very balanced. They can throw the ball. They can run the ball. I think if you look at their 3 scoring drives in the first half will tell you all you need to know about Washington Township. Or their 3 drives in the first half. Sorry, not scoring drives. Their first drive, they wanted to run the ball, milk the clock, take some time off the clock and do that ground and pound thing you love so much, Mac.
Well, it wins games.
It wins games. They had 25 plays in their first drive. It spanned 86 yards. It took 11 minutes and 34 seconds, somewhere around there. And they didn't get points. So the whole first quarter's gone off one drive. They don't get points.
Are we speaking things into existence? Literally, we were talking about Army having a 24-play drive for 95 yards the week. I mean, crazy. The crazy thing about the Township, they don't score, but I think it sets it hey, we're here to punt, we're here to play some smash mouth. You better, you better score when you got it because we're going to keep it when we got it.
Yeah, 100%. They don't score. Atlantic City has a drive of their own. They come down and they also drive down in the red zone, don't convert on 4th down. And the ball comes back to Washington Township. And on the 3rd play of the next drive, Cole Aquino finds Paris Pratt for a 91-yard touchdown pass. He had basically a 2-minute drive on 3 plays, goes 91 yards and 1 pass. Dynamic play against a first drive that took 25 plays, just moving the chains, power run game. The second drive that they had there that ended in points at the end of the first half, they drive 91 yards again in a span of a minute and 1 second on 6 plays. Aquino throwing the ball. He ends up 8 of 14 for 149 and a touchdown. It's 14-0 at the end of the first half. Colin Beeler, instrumental, 19 for 101 running the ball. Atlantic City fights back. They get the thing down to 20-6. And you really feel like they're driving. They've got in the red zones early 4th quarter. You think they score here, they've got a chance. The momentum is on their side.
Right.
And then we have one of our knots of the week as Parker Reese puts himself in Washington Township history. I got to give a big shout out here to Jay of GE Views. Follow him on Instagram at Genus by Jay. That's at GENUS by JAY. Proud father of Jalen Robinson, scored twice in this game. Thank you so much, Jay, for this video. It was excellent. We got it off of, saw it on his Instagram, so be sure to follow him. Let's go ahead and take a look here. You can see, got motion out to the left. Peaky rolls to the right. He's looking, coming back, trying to make a play. Sees somebody, and Parker Reese had it all the way. I mean, he catches that thing 3 yards deep in the end zone. You could just see how wild it was there. He takes it all the way to the house. 29 years of frustration gone for the Minutemen. Reese had 2 interceptions on the night. He had another one that came inside the 5-yard line. Deshaun Long had an interception at the goal line. Big win for Washington Township, obviously, with the trophy. The students end up coming out, celebrating. It was a beautiful night for them. And they're, we'll talk about their matchup next week. It's a team they're very familiar with over the last couple of years. But you were the first one who launched that cannon shot out to South Jersey outside of Washington Township. In a game you went a few years ago when Shawnee was down there, and you said, I just like the whole vibe. And we joke about it before. I like the cannon. This is building into something, and here it is, sectional final.
Right. I mean, getting there and going to their games. You can see when you're around a program, and I don't know, it's a buzz, it's a feel, right? Whether they win the game, but you just know if the community's supporting it, the bands and I don't know, maybe it was luck, but I just that night I'm there as watching my kid play at Shawnee, but I'm like, man, Township's got something coming. They got something coming down the road. The disciplined football. I mean, different group of kids. Obviously, it's 4 or 5 years later, but the work and the time, and and it's all paid off. Wow, you talk about knot of the week, it might be knot of the year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that type of play to, as you said, Atlantic City scores there, different ball game.
Yeah, I think you're always looking for a play when you cover these games and they're close. You're looking for that defining play, not just for the game, and obviously in a championship game, it's the biggest deal of all, but one that you can kind of point back to and say, a lot of hours, and Coach Schatzman went through a laundry list of players that couldn't enjoy being a part of that team, but were instrumental in getting the program to a point where a team could enjoy that section. I mean, the guys who put in the work stayed there. I think of Joe Nathan, Silver, Sharkey. There were a number, Dizergowski, John Stone, who's at Rutgers, guys who helped build the Washington Township program back to what it was, so that these guys wanted to come out and play. These guys want to play for Township. And, Mac, to see it kind of crystallized in a moment where that's the game, that's the season for AC, that's the championship for Washington Township. Really, what more could you ask for when you're covering a Group 5 sectional final?
Yeah, I mean, and we used to talk to our guys about, hey, there's going to be 8, not even 10, 6 to 8 plays that are going to make a difference tonight.
Definitely.
And the problem is, you don't know which ones they are, and you don't know when they're going to happen either. And you look back, and you look back and you grab that film, and I know Coach and I talk about it. You go, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that, and and that one right there. I mean, that's easy to point out as a play. You could probably look at 6, 7 other plays, but in those situations, you don't know as a player. But having those opportunities, like you said, the work that's put in, the kids that we used to talk about, the kids that came before you, right? When we got to Lenape in 11, we didn't win the final till 17.
Yeah.
The kids who'd come in before had graduated, but those seniors, it's really hard when your first group of seniors, you fall in love with those guys because they buy in, but they only got 1 year with those guys, but they're still leaders in that program, and they're telling the sophomores and juniors and the incoming freshmen, they're like, yo guys, let's stick to it. Keep working the process, to overuse the phrase, and whether it be the weight room, the off season, staying in town, sticking together, and here you go. The fruits of the labor are come to fruition. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and you have a big night like that in Washington Township, a lot of celebrations, and I have a lot of fondness for both the head coaches in this game and what they did. Keenan Wright's done an excellent job at Atlantic City. He'll have more success as time goes on here as well. He's built a sustainable product down there, and the kids are certainly love playing for those horns on the helmet. Mike Schatzman, I have nothing but the best things to say about Mike. He's a good guy, and I think everybody in South Jersey is a supporter of Mike. And want him to do well, and want Township to do well for him. He does a lot for the kids, a lot for the community, and a lot for his program.
And this is one semifinal we'll talk about later in the show that we will be, all due respect to the Mariners, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be, but I would think South Jersey's behind the Minutemen, playing in the state, get a chance to play for that state final. So good. They still got. That'll be the interesting. We'll talk about it, but you get your first sectional final, and then you got to kind of say, all right, let's get it together. We got a semi coming up.
Well, I think when we look at these teams that are left, we're talking about not teams, we're talking about programs, and nothing against these additions. But you look back the last few years, and now Washington Township, 2 sectional final appearances in a row. They win one. They are now at that program level of the teams we expect in the landscape to be there each year. Certainly Toms River North, Glassboro, Woodstown, Winslow, Millville, Mainland.
Right.
Even on the other side there, Somerville is a team that's experienced a lot of success over the years. You look at across the state, Phillipsburg, Ramapo. There's a whole lot of Cedar Grove, a whole lot of frequent success. One interesting point I do want to connect this back to Battle of the Beach. When I talked to Jalen Robinson's father this week, who had that video, and he said, you know what? It made a big difference to Jalen when he got the MVP in that battle at the beach 2 years ago, even though they lost to Mainland. He said that really lit a fuse under him to know he does have the confidence. He can keep playing. The guy's really come on running the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Union City, another one. Thank you, too. He's really come on running the ball for them in key spots. He plays great at linebacker. Washington Township, very balanced. We'll talk about their matchup too. We're going to preview all the action. Like I said, we got Coach Emel is going to come on here and join us. He's been watching film. He's been locked in the film room, breaking things down. He's going to tell us exactly what we can expect this weekend. As state finals are a week away, we're going to see who's going to play in them. We may have some thoughts on that too.
And we might touch on some IU.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of a Big Ten, but we'll see. Right now, I think in South Jersey, we got the Big Five. So we got 5.
We got 5 7 games.
7. I don't know.
We have 7 games that are South Jersey teams.
St. Augustine. We got Millville.
Oh, okay. I got you.
6. Thank you, John. He's a math guy. No group 2.
You guys were going teams. I was going games that involved. Gotcha. I got games, overall games. Understood.
We didn't spell that out in advance. Apologies. But sit tight. Stay right there. Share this out with your friends who are South Jersey football fans. We want to get everybody in here. Join the comments in Facebook or YouTube. We got a really fun show ahead. So sit tight. We'll be right back with the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show's presenting sponsor is the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 4 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated close to $80,000 to date provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by SRA Home Products. South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects in the Delaware Valley. I've had nothing but the best to say about Mike Fody in the time I've had the chance to be around him and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up Best of South Jersey awards throughout their past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online at srahomeproducts.com. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by the NJFOA South Officials Association. Are you passionate about football? Don't wait. Become a part of the NJFOA South Officials Association and join them to help officiate high school football games. With a diverse community of more than 250 members, they proudly oversee every high school football game in South Jersey, setting the standard for officiating in the state. By joining the chapter, you will become part of a team that upholds the highest standards in the game. They are more than just officials. They are advocates for sportsmanship, integrity, and guardians of player safety, champions of fair play. They offer the proper training to ensure you're ready to make the calls and uphold the values. Ready to put on the stripes and join the team? Visit www.njfoasouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. That's www.njfoa-south.org and hit Join Us to register now. Elevate your love for the game and become a football official with NJFOA South. Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. Mark Trible here, joined by Tim McAneney and Coach John Emel. We're going to talk about the games. This is Coach Mac. Look right in there. Coach, IU.
The solo shot.
Yeah, I got the solo shot.
But I got to get the IU emblem.
Absolutely. I would be remiss, first off, on a side note. I saw this today. I tweeted out, on a somber note, it was 5 years ago today. Micah Duke, Tennant, lost his life after being hit by gunfire at a game in South Jersey at a sectional, I believe it was a sectional semifinal, sectional playoff game between Camden and Pleasantville. It was one of the saddest moments in South Jersey sports history that happened, and our thoughts still go out to Micah's family. It was a good instance of South Jersey rallying around one of its own. Raising money, doing a lot for that family, and certainly Micah's spirit, his memory is never forgotten. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up tonight. And everyone should take a moment, reflect on their loved ones and what they mean to them, and how the South Jersey football community rallies around our own. Now, on a brighter note, let's talk a little bit about the Section 1 state semifinal here between Glassboro and Woodstown. This is going to be 6 p.m. on Friday night at Glassboro. The rematch of last year's Group 1 state semifinal. Glassboro won that 14-10. Last week they beat Shalleck 40-9 for the South Group 1 title. Jack O'Connell goes 11 of 18 for 183 and 2 touchdowns. Kenny Smith, 9 carries, 93 yards and a touchdown. Amari Sabb, 7 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Sabb caught a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. And not only did he do that, he also has one of our knots of the week. Rod, I believe you have it here, a little pick six for Mr. Sabb of the Xavier variety. That's the link, but here we go. Throw that thing up. It seems to always find Xavier Sabb. This one caps the game for them. Once he's got it in his hands, he's going to find the end zone. But he wasn't alone on knots of the week for Glassboro. How about Devon Barr as a scoop and score, Rod? I think we have that one as well. Here we go. Earlier in the game, Look at that. I guess they said, you know what? It came out before his hand was going forward. Devon Barr runs it in. They all count the same in the end. It was not the difference in the game.
Might you see that one again?
Yeah, Devon. I'm glad he made I'm glad they did it, and the whistle wasn't blown. And but he throws it at he throws it at the 20.
Might have gone backwards.
Fantasy football perspectives, they still scored 2 touchdowns on defense.
Yes, they did.
You want to pick them up and stream them.
Yes,
Actually, if you had Glassboro's defense in fantasy football, you played them every week, didn't you, John?
Yeah, they're an impressive unit. You know, obviously, the strength of that program the last 3 years.
100%. Now,
and then you had Kenny Smith on offense, and then with the Sabs on offense as well. And they got some guys on both sides.
Now, their opponent, Woodstown, one that they're very familiar with, beat Shore 31-0 for the Central Group 1 title. In that game, Bryce Belafonte came back with a vengeance. 25 carries, 225, and a touchdown. I'd say he's doing just fine in the health department. Alex Torres runs for a touchdown. Garrett Lehman, a rush touchdowns. Also the Team Scholar Athlete Award winner with the Touchdown Club. And Carter Orlandini Hart has a pick 6. And Rob, we got that nod. We got all the nods, man.
But Rod's working the board, huh?
Oh, look at those orange unis, man. That's beautiful. The sod down there at Woodstown, let me tell you.
Little hokey orange.
Deflection, yeah. Not bad. Pick 6. Nothing like scoring a nod in a sectional final.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's good.
It's beautiful. So these teams now, they've played, this will be the 4th time they've played in the last 2 years. Woodstown's only lost 4 games in the last 2 years. 3 of them were to Woodstown.
Yep.
To Glassboro.
Glassboro.
I apologize. We know what Glassboro can do defensively. We know Kenny Smith's in the backfield. On Woodstown's side, Belafonte is one of the best backs in South Jersey and really has been since he hit the field as a starting varsity player. John, you're the Group 1 guru. We know that. We're going to skip over IU here. We're going to skip over the Big Ten. And tell me, John, what is the key to this game from a Woodstown perspective?
Can I say something, though, after he does this thing?
You're going to say what you're going to say?
No, you say what you say, and I'll say what I say.
So I think starting off, Belafonte was kind of the X factor last week. The question was he going to play? Was he going to be healthy again? He really been hampered since the last game against Glassboro, and he really hadn't had to do too much in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. But he came to play. I watched that game today on Huddle. Belafonte got it rolling. He had 3 or 4 of the first touches of the game, 8, 9, 10 yards a pop. Had a long run to set up the first touchdown when it was 3-0 to make it 10-0. And they really, he's been their guy. He replaced James Hill, who was hurt last year, was Woodstown's best player the last couple of years. Real credit to Coach Adams and Woodstown last year because there's not many teams that could get to this position, state semifinals, without their best player. Belafonte steps up. He led South Jersey in rushing a little over 1,700 yards. He's just a tremendous player. But there's a lot of good seniors. Lehman, Walter Carter, my old high school and college teammate. Walter's son has been starting for 3 years on the lines. They have some good players, man. They're a good program. I look back, the last 6 years, going back to 2019, Woodstown's 49-15. And like you said, 4 losses the last 2 years, 3 of them is Glassboro. They play good complementary team football. And, a lot like Shallock last week, we talked about previewing that game with Glassboro. They're going to have to protect the ball. They're going to have to contain, limit the big plays. And, the blueprint is there. They played really well in the first half, even with Belafonte being banged up. And they got it to halftime. They were, up 8-7 or 7-7 in that game? Yeah. Mark, you covered it. Yeah. So if you can do that for a half, you can do it for a full game and give yourself an opportunity to win.
Mac, what do you have to add here?
Look, Belafonte's unbelievable. As Coach said, 9 to 10, the back that you and I we love having every day of the week, right? Are they enough diversity, dynamic wise to hang with Glassboro's defense? Because Coach, if you're going to be one dimensional, you better be downhill one dimensional and be able to get it every time. And so Glassboro can sell out to stop the run, right? So does that not mean that Woodstown can't get the run? No. I mean, they can get it. They can get it. Offensively, though, on Glassboro's side, now with Kenny's, they can do it different ways, right? They can play catch up. They can do some different
I
things.
thought last year, watching Glassboro, mature the last year and a half, Simmons is such a problem. It's like the old coach. He's so quick and athletic as a
Brandon
big guy.
Simmons, D-line.
Brandon Simmons, D lineman. Do you run at him, right? If you run at him, well, now you're going at the heart and the strength of their D line. If you run away, he's good enough to run plays down from the backside, which is kind of like talking to some West Deptford guys when they were going against Camden the last couple of years. They had James Hurd at the end. That's the kind of guy that gives you that type of problem. It's like, do you run at him or do you run away and risk him just disrupting everything from the backside? So it's like,
like an option team.
And Glassboro's going to do what they're going to do. They're going to play their 5-3. They're going to play a lot of cover one high with you saw Saab in the middle, and it's like how aggressive are you going to be on offense, because the windows are going to be really tight, and if you pick and choose when you throw, you make a mistake. Forget about the pass rush that you saw in that clip. You got Saab in the secondary just kind of roving around ready to make a pick six at any time.
You're going to have to. I don't think Glassboro will ever back up off the ball. They're going to still do what they do with the 5-3 up front. And when we talk about 8 in the box, you're going to have 8.5, 9 in the box. So they're going to dare them to throw the ball. And Woodstown is going to still try to run, and they're going to run the ball. And
I saw both games last year when they played, and Woodstown had a great blueprint. They were definitely a different team last year with Max Webb, a senior quarterback. But they got the ball in the red zone, had a ball in the flat, and Glassboro stripped it, ran it back, kind of swung that game. Woodstown missed a field goal right before the half. And then even late in the game, Woodstown had the ball inside the 10 with a lead, with an opportunity to kind of make it a 2-score game, put it away under 5 minutes. And that's what you're going to see against a team that's as good on defense as Glassboro. Yeah. You could put it on the 5-yard line. It's like, can you still score?
Right.
So they're going to have those opportunities, I'm sure, again Friday, and they got to score every time.
Well, and John, you were at both of those games, and the defining point in both of those games was a big play for Glassboro, right? And big plays have been their knack. And, they can hand it off to Kenny Smith 30 times, but Kenny Smith usually doesn't need 30 touches to score a few touchdowns. The first time that they played, Kenny Smith had uncharacteristically 2 fumbles, and I think Glassboro had 5 turnovers on the game. But there were opportunities. Woodstown gave it away 3 times. So it really ended up being up 2. And there were 2 huge plays. It was a Kenny Smith run and it was a Kenny Smith screen pass. That was the difference. Other than that, it would have been 7-6, I believe, in favor of Woodstown. So my question is not if Glassboro will have those big plays, because we know they are used to them and they have the guys who can do them. You can go down a litany of names that could produce it. The question is, outside of Belafonte, Woodstown may need one of their secondary guys to make that big play, because it can't just be Bryce. It's got to be somebody else who steps up. And we saw the pick six. We know what Garrett Lehman brings to the team as well. They've got guys who, this stage may be yours now to put your name on a historical level at Woodstown.
Right. I mean, this is a type of in a page. You talk about turnovers, right? And again, this is the time of year you roll your eyes at me. I always talk about, run game, turnovers, defense. That's Woodstown's going to have to create some of those things, the short field, and those. You don't want to put yourself in, obviously, behind the sticks, and all the good cliches or bad cliches. You just got to keep doing what you do. It's not like they can't go out of what they want to do. But Glassboro's defense can kind of make you do some things you don't want to do too.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think Woodstown's definitely better than they were, a month and a half ago. I've seen them a few times this year even. And Lehman's giving them that second back. He's a quarterback, but he can run the ball. He's a big guy. He started in different positions for the last couple years. Probably as good running as he is throwing,
right.
And that's Woodstown's blueprint. So between him, Belafonte, and some of the other guys like Torres that have stepped up, they're going to spread the ball around, and Glassboro's going to, what do you say, Coach? They're not going to change what they do. They're big, they're physical, they're going to try to create turnovers and make you pay. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's kind of like one of those games where you're Woodstown, hey, can we score 20 points? If we score 20 points, we got a good chance to win. If we don't, it's going to be hard to beat Glassboro.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to be there again Friday night at 6 p.m. at Glassboro as the Bulldogs play Woodstown. Woodstown with 1 loss on the season. It came to Glassboro. Glassboro has 0 losses on the season. The other semifinal, Cedar Grove, who we saw battle at the beach, they're 12-0. They have no losses. And Butler is also undefeated at 11-0. And those two are going to clash in the other Group 1 semifinal. So we shall see what happens there.
Cedar Grove and Butler are both undefeated, I think. So you're going to get an undefeated. Whoever wins this game will get an undefeated Group 1. Cedar Grove's been dominant all year. Butler has been dominant too. That's a historically good program out of North Jersey. So it's going to be exciting. All 4 of these teams have the pedigree of a state champion.
No question. And
But that's bonus coverage.
Yeah.
He brought up North 1,
look,
North 2, Group 1.
I told you.
He went deep.
He's prepped.
Cedar Grove was at the Battle of the Beach 2 years ago. We matched them up with Salem. They have a lot of guys that have started the last couple years. This was the team that was supposed to be a state title contender. Butler, not to get how we're getting roll, but Butler was the top seed last year and got knocked off, early in the playoffs. So they're kind of like on a little bit of a revenge tour. So we'll see what happens.
Be an interesting final one way or another.
Coach, you better not forget any birthdays in your house.
Coach, don't forget anything. Group 2, we had one Group 2 team left from South Jersey. That was Camden High. They fell on Friday night at Farnham Park, 15-7 to Point Pleasant Borough. Point Pleasant Borough will meet Rumson Fairhaven in the South Central State semifinal. It's a short conference matchup. We're not going to get too in-depth on that matchup, but I do want to say this. Rod was at the Camden High game. Rod, give us your viewpoint on Point Borough and what you think about them as they head into that matchup with Rumson.
It's going to be a really good game. They came into that game with a really good game plan. They ate the clock from the start. They started to eat the clock. They didn't snap the ball until about 5 seconds left. So they were able to condense the game how many possessions Camden was able to get. They did everything they wanted to do from the start to the finish. They limited possessions. They got turnovers. They made big plays. They limited Camden's big plays. They all around great game plan by them.
Yeah, I think last week we talked about it. We said from a style standpoint, it was a tough matchup for Camden. Tricky, intriguing, I think is where we use. But, I think the sophomore quarterback kind of had a quiet game for Point Borough. It was the fullback who we said was one of the guys to watch. He had 18 touchdowns.
We might have called him the feedback.
Yeah, he's a stud. And then there was another sophomore when watching the game live. To me, it seemed like Rod, and I've watched Camden against Delsey the last couple of years, and they held up pretty well. I think Point Borough definitely controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, more than has happened against Camden the last couple of years. And I know they had some guys out, I think, and it was some youth for Camden in some key spots. But that seemed to be the only difference in the game.
Yeah, I mean, schematically, when you do run that, when you do what they do, I mean, first of all, what Rod talks about running the clock down, a lot of teams try to do that stuff. It's hard to rhythm. Is your lineman in the rack too long? Leaving the huddle properly, and when it's not just like, hey, wait till you start to see the hand. It's just not that simple because you still want to get your own offense in no rhythm. Yeah. We've been on both sides of that where we're like, all right, we're moving the ball. We just pounded off 7 yards. And then we're like, hold on, let's remember what we're trying to do here. We're trying to limit possessions. But on the offensive line side, some of those things, leaving guys on block, leaving 3 techs on block, you're not used to not. In football, 99% of the time when you're lined up on a guy's head or offset in a 1 tech, 3 tech, etc., somebody's hitting you. And when you're a D lineman and you're not getting hit and you're being read, it throws you off because sometimes your aggressiveness plays against you, and it takes a different style of football.
We tell our kids, right, and this is not a secret, right? When you're a 4-3 team and you're playing spread offenses every week, that D-line is coming up field, coach.
Correct.
They're getting penetration. So I don't care what front you change. You go to a 6-2, 5-man front. Those guys aren't going to change their technique.
No, they're going
to fly upfield.
Yes.
And that's what that offense wants. And, I think some other things when I was watching Point Borough, obviously for the first time last week against Camden, they're double tight, and those corners for Camden are on the line of scrimmage playing run, which how often do you that all year? It's tough. Exactly. You can't prepare for that, and
we used to say
tough.
Let's try to make a corner be the edge player, be the tackler, because those in high school And even at the upper levels, what type of corner is that kid? If he's a pure coverage type kid, will he? I mean, look, we know they can tackle in space, but will he want to do it all day?
I mean, and I'll be honest, they did enough to win. They held Point Borough to 13 points, had a great goal line stand. I mean, it really comes down to the offense needed to score like they had all year. And we said that.
But to Rod's point, though, as that game gets like this,
it gets shrunk.
Yes, no question.
And that was
timeout.
It was exciting second half. The goal line stand, Point Borough was up 13-7.
Mm-hmm.
They got stopped on the goal line on fourth. That second and goal from like the 1.5 and couldn't get a yard and a half for 3 downs. Camden drove it out, kind of survived. They got the ball back late, and the guy caught the pass. It looked like they were going to have like a 1st and 10 about the 30, and Point Borough kid just stripped him. It was a real headsy play, But like Mark said in the monologue or whatever you want to call it, these teams have been here. Point Borough lost to Willingboro last year at home. Yeah. They have been to this point. Their 2 losses this year were to Rumson early in the season, week 1. And they lost to Toms River North like 26-21, a 1-score game where North needed a score to win at the end. Yeah. And obviously North's still playing. So this team can play. It was a tough loss because of what we expect out of Camden at home, but Point Borough's a real deal team.
I'm going to say this slightly in jest, but it's something I've been thinking about. I think maybe we invite Point Borough, Rumson, Fairhaven, and Toms River North to join the West Jersey Football League, little like A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma, and just come on over to the SEC. Because those guys, I mean, every year you know what you're going to get with them. They bring their hard hat. They are bona fide programs. I know some in the chat are mentioning as well the prowess that they bring every year.
Right, we're throwing shade on Central Football, but those guys.
I don't throw shade on anybody.
Nah, I mean,
you don't throw shade on anybody.
Well, because you're still coaching.
But I'll say this: the stats and public brackets bear it out. You put those 3 records the last few years.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Versus the rest. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty clear that is. I think there's a lot of wins with those 3 teams.
There was 3 or 4 marquee games where it was our best teams against out of area teams, and that was the one that didn't go our way.
Right,
100%.
And my last point about the Camden game is, I don't want it to be overlooked. Camden had every opportunity to win the game, right? Yeah. We know they had some injuries and things like that, but when you get down into the playoffs, and you have a team condense the clock. You cannot turn the ball over. No. You can't have the false starts that puts you behind the sticks. They had a 4th down play early in the game where the snap went over the quarterback's head. Those are things that when you get down to go to the championship, you have to eliminate those little mistakes because they ultimately turn into big mistakes.
Well, and I think, too, when you think about plays like that or mistakes like that, as humans, we're conditioned to think about it. You fumble the ball, they get possession. That's a possession you don't fulfill in that drive. You only, like we talk about, you only get so many. Are you thinking about that, or you think, well, I don't want the other team to get the ball? I mean, psychologically, when you go back and look at drive charts and you look at what the progress was of the game, especially against a team that takes air out of the ball like Point Borough is able to do and did on Friday night, it comes down to minor details of one snap. That means a punt for that possession, or that means an interception on a long pass, forcing the issue. And those are things, those mistakes add up in a way that it ends up really wrapping the gavel for you on your whole season.
Okay, did 10 to 12 possessions, usually down to 6, 7?
We always say 4, 5.5, right. And then if you're really trying to control the clock and you get a few first downs, you could limit. We had a couple games this year where we drove the ball 10, 12 plays, and we got 3 possessions and a half. Yeah. And that's like, you got to make them count, man.
Yeah, you do. And then the other team, which spins around, the other team is a little uncomfortable when you're used to getting the ball 5, 6 possessions and a half, and you only get it 2, maybe 3.
Right.
And then you're down a score. Now everything, like you said.
Yeah, they mounted a comeback there. It was 13-0, and I'm sure, Rod, it's playoffs. Everybody gets a little tight when it's when you're, things aren't going well and you're down because it's everybody's last game if they don't win.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I felt like the coaches tried to bring everything back in, but it was some plays like
just couldn't get that break to get them over the top. That last fumble just broke it.
It broke
it back because I thought they were still going to win, go down there and score and win.
That's what I thought.
I really thought they were going to win.
When you look at the minor details, we talk about they get the 4th down stop, and then 2 plays later, They get the ball out of the end zone. It looks like the kid's getting ready to make a play, and he gets slung back into the end zone for a safety. So those are the type of swings that they were doing good, and then they would just get a play like that. That was pretty much the whole game.
Well, I mean, you got on the other side of that bracket. I know you got Shabazz.
Well, you won't be at the Group 2 game.
No, I will not be at the Group 2 game.
I think we're good.
Say that. Group 3. Now you got Somerville, undefeated, beat Delsey last week, 24-6 for the South Jersey Group 3 final. Brendan Pacheco, 8 for 14, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. Terrell Mitchell, 21 for 130 on the ground and a touchdown. Max Nuzzi caught a touchdown as well. Big performance from Somerville. I think many of us thought, could Delsey pull that off? They're going on the road. They were met with a furious bunch of Pioneers. I mean, they took care of business, and they proved why they've been as good as they've been this year up there, kind of close to Rutgers. Pretty far hike for South Jersey champ. But either way, they will host the Mustangs of Mainland at 7 p.m. on Friday night. Mainland beat Seneca 42-14 for the Central Group 3 title. John Franchini, 5 of 8, 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rocco DiBiaso, 35 carries, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lucas DiBiaso, 2 rushing touchdowns, caught a touchdown. And Dylan Granzow caught a touchdown as well. Mac, you were at this game. The Cliff, it's 42-14. I know things got out of hand there, but the Cliff notes of what you saw from Mainland.
Well, look, Mainland's a stronger team, and we've talked about Seneca all year, what they've done, and Coach Diorio, and and they came out swinging, right?
Yeah.
And you go and you look at opportunities, and I'm sure when you watching film is good and bad, right? But there's no, as they say, film doesn't lie, and you're watching, and in that situation, I look at a key sequence at the end of the second quarter. Seneca has an opportunity inside the 20-yard line.
Yeah. What was the score?
At the time they were down a score. Mm-hmm. They're down a score, and they get picked off in the end zone. And then
it's 14-7, I think. I watched that game.
14-7, right?
I was watching on YouTube. Yeah.
And then I think there was 5 plays later. I think they scored. Mainland scores.
Yeah, they broke off either a long run or they threw the pass down inside the red zone.
Right, and then they threw the key pass into the corner. Now it's a 2-score game. So you go from being a tie game possibly at half to going up a score, and then coming out of halftime with the ball, Mainland goes and scores. It's so you see, like, those good teams make mistakes, right? And Mainland is a really good team. But so you go back and you're like, wow, the ifs and buts and coulds and shoulds and things like that, opportunities. But look, Mainland's just they're sound on offense, sound on defense. They don't make mistakes, and the fullback, the DiBiase,
DiBiase.
Man, that kid. I didn't see him. First time. I saw.
He's playing grown man football.
Yeah,
he's a man amongst boys.
Yeah, and you know what? As the weather gets a little colder, he's a little.
Will be this weekend,
and it's a little tougher to tackle that cat.
I talked about last week. Mainland looks healthy for the first time probably since the middle of the season, going into the Winslow game. I think they were fairly healthy going into the Winslow game. But when you play that schedule they play, you're going to get guys banged up, and they look good again. And they got the winning pedigree, obviously. I'm curious as to, they went to overtime with Delsey, right? Last game of the regular season. And they probably were anticipating, like we were last week, that Delsey was going to go on the road and get it done. So now you have to shift your focus to an unknown opponent. But I will tell you this, Mainland, if you look at the short conference the last couple of years, you look at Ramapo in the state finals, and different teams, when they go out of area, when a Coach Folsom style team goes out of area, they tend to do very well. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. So we'll see. But look, when that offense goes against people that haven't seen it, it tends to do very well. And I know Somerville's a great team, and but I'm curious to see what happens.
Matt Ulmer, who wanted you up in the booth with him, says it was 21-7 when the interception happened. Thank you, Matt.
Sorry, Matt.
You should have been up there.
It could have been a one-score game at the half. They had a chance down there,
Yes.
But I don't think, I think Seneca showed some fight, though, that Homedale didn't show the week before.
It's a fascinating game for the Group 3 state semifinal here. It's a game I think a lot of us would love to see. It's a very, very long ride.
They're probably going to ride past Rutgers to get there. It's kind of
no
ironic.
question.
So.
The other Semifinal there is going to be Pascack Valley, who's 10-1. We saw them at Battle at the Beach, beat Rancocas Valley. Very impressive team. They're hosting Old Tappan, who's 10-1. Old Tappan won the state championship a couple of years ago against Delsey. We saw them in person. Nico Ottamanelli, the first player outside of South Jersey to wear the hat. So Old Tappan has a special piece of South Jersey history as well.
Yeah, Pascack won that game earlier this year. Pascack's got one loss. We saw them at Battle of the Beach against RV. RV looked tremendous early in that game, and they just rolled them right in the second quarter to kind of put that game out of reach. Pascack knew they were going to be good. They were invited to Battle of the Beach, and they're in that mix where they're with Northern Highlands. I think is their one loss, but them, Northern Highlands, Ramapo, they're in that mix where they've been kind of taking a back seat to them. I think it would be pretty cool for me as a football fan and a guy that helps run the Battle of the Beach to have Pascack and Mainland play, because we take pride in trying to get the best teams before the season. You never know how that's going to work out. So to have that opportunity, to have a chance to have a Battle of the Beach final in the state finals, that's a good. And then Washington Township and North, we're going to get to them in a little bit, but they both were in Battle of the Beach, in years past. That'd be pretty cool too.
Absolutely. So, and our guy, Dwayne Morris, is going to be on site there at Brooks Field to see Somerville and Mainland.
I read the comments, right, because some of the North Jersey fans are tuning in. They love this show. It's popular up there. Dwayne, a couple guys. Yeah. Now, I know the top wideout for Somerville didn't play last week. Right. I'm hearing he's going to play this week. And watching a couple highlights from their win over at Delsey, they are very dynamic on offense, which I said they ran into Woodrow Wilson, Eastside Camden a few years ago. They ran into Cedar Creek when they were undefeated. But they are a good spread offensive football team and culture. And culture wins games this time of year. So if they get that wide out, you know how it is, Coach. You go into the playoffs with all your guys. That's a big advantage to have all your guys back.
I was talking to Coach Smith on Monday night at the Touchdown Club, and he said, when you go through our division, they say the receiver is playing this week. We're hearing in the comments. When you play in our division, they went 1-3 in their division. They lost to St. Augustine, Millville, and Winslow. And those games weren't particularly close by the final scores. I think St. Augustine was 21-3. Winslow, I was there, it was 47-24. I don't remember what the Millville score was.
Well, 7-6 in the half.
But that's fine, but it wasn't at the end of the game. It wasn't at one point. Yeah. The thing is Mainland has been there. And Chuck said, we go in the playoffs and we say, we're not playing anybody that's better than what we've seen in our division.
Right. Their schedule is a gauntlet.
When you go in,
I think that's a huge advantage. When you put on that tape and your kids see Seneca last week, Homedale the week before, Somerville this week, what can you say? They ain't Winslow. They ain't Millville.
No.
So you've been tested.
Right. And we sit here, we're talking about a Clyde Folsom run offense and Coach Smith with his, what they do and their defense, Coach Watson. And look, when you watch Mainland play, there's not many chinks in that armor there. They got a lot they got a lot going on.
They're sound. You have to execute to beat them.
You have to execute. You got to get a break or two. They're going to block a punt. They're going to block.
They're good in all three phases. Kicking game is very good.
Correct. And they're going to make you can't make mistakes, and they don't make mistakes. And when you're going into a game knowing you can't make mistakes, that's a tough spot to be in, as opposed to knowing your team's not going to make mistakes. Coach, you've coached some teams where you're like, man, I just hope we can. I hope this guy does. But then you've coached some teams where you're like, we don't make any mistakes. We make some, but
they're playing really well offensively. We talked about the Blum receiver with over 1,000 yards. Franchise's been the guy the last 3 years as a quarterback. I like their backfield. The younger DiBiaso's playing left half. They have a freshman number 4 who caught a touchdown pass.
Yep.
They just spread it around. And 21, big, strong fullback, as good as anybody in South Jersey. He's probably got 600 yards in the 3 playoff games.
What's this
They're playing lights off.
What's this say?
DiBiase, 35 carries, 193 yards.
35 carries.
35 carries.
35 carries.
How many guys can carry the ball 35 times?
Carries.
35 carries. Tough.
People are worried about Saquon carrying it 15.
I like the fact that you get a team that's a central team, a true central team, right? I think they're in the Big Central Conference, and they are, they're the cream of the crop. Mainland's a program that has been the cream of the crop. I like to see them match up in a game that at this magnitude. I
We
know.
got different conference. We got what GMC,
Yeah.
right? Instead of the short conference. So this is exciting.
And the receiver did play last week. We were talking about the defensive end has been out. Maybe he was hampered by
Somebody
the ankle.
was
I don't
out.
know.
That's a stud for them. So
100%. So the other side, we talked about Pascack Valley and Old Tappan. Group 4, we're going to talk about Group 4 a little bit later at the end of the show when we're talking about maybe a game of the week. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back, talk about Group 5. We'll talk about the non-pub. Sit tight. Right after this, we'll be back with the South Jersey Football Frenzy. The South Jersey Football Frenzy show's presenting sponsor is the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 4 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated close to $80,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy show is also sponsored by SRA Home Products. South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects in the Delaware Valley. I've had nothing but the best to say about Mike Fody in the time I've had the chance to be around him and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up the Best of South Jersey awards throughout their past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online at srahomeproducts.com. The South Jersey Football Frenzy show is also sponsored by the NJFOA South Officials Association. Are you passionate about football? Don't wait. Become a part of the NJFOA South Officials Association and join them to help officiate high school football games. With a diverse community of more than 250 members, they proudly oversee every high school football game in South Jersey, setting the standard for officiating in the state. By joining the chapter, you will become part of a team that upholds the highest standards in the game. They are more than just officials. They're advocates for sportsmanship, integrity, and guardians of player safety, champions of fair play. They offer the proper training to ensure you're ready to make the calls and uphold the values. Ready to put on the stripes and join the team? Visit www.njfoasouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. That's www.njfoa-south.org and hit Join Us to register now. Elevate your love for the game and become a football official with NJFOA South. Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. Mark Trible here, back in Studio B, talking about Group 5. Toms River North wins the South Jersey bracket. They beat RV 42-27 in a game where they were losing. They finished the game on a 35-7 run in the second half. Cole Garrison, 11 touches, 130 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. Nasir Jackson, 2 pick sixes, back-to-back drives, I believe, really put this thing away for the Mariners, and he ran for a touchdown. We talked about Washington Township beat Atlantic City 27-6, and we'll get into the details of this matchup here in a second. But let's take a look back first at what Toms River North's been able to accomplish over the past few years. They've beaten Washington Township twice. In 2023, they beat them in the Central Jersey Group 5 final last year, 49-14. 2 years ago, they beat them in the Battle of the Beach 28-21. Really one of the closest games Toms River North played for a long stretch there. They have a 37-game win streak against public schools. They're hosting this thing at home. When RV was winning the game 20-7, I think a lot of people were thinking, wow, could this be the night that Toms River North, not just against a local team, but any team would finally beat them in the publics? It wasn't to be. They showed up again. When the bell rang, they were there at the end, and that's what Toms River North has done for years. They are going to host this Washington Township team that, as I mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast when we talked about the game of the week last week, beating Atlantic City, balanced team, can run the ball, can run in between the tackles. They like that power run game. You got Frank Holmes involved there in the offense. You know they're going to want to run that thing right in the middle. Also, they can throw it. Aquino has shown he has an arm. Think about the way that transpired last week, being able to score on 91-yard drives in basically a combined 3 minutes, but also being able to sustain an 11-minute and 30-second drive. So they have balance. Opportunistic in the secondary, 3 picks last week. Deshaun Long, dynamic playmaker, offense and defense. Paris Pratt can catch it. He can do a lot of receiver too. Toms River North, it's a different animal playing there. As Dwayne says in our chat, Toms River North is still Toms River North, and certainly the cream of the crop in Group 5 as they've won the only 2 state championships in state history. What do we think about this matchup, John?
Mac, you want to take the lead? I'll go first.
Well,
I think first off, you mentioned it. You know, Washington Township. There's going to be a familiarity there. They played the last 2 years. This is, round number 3, and Township's got probably the best team they've had. A team they've been building and get to this point. I think for RV, kind of looking back to last week, there was some whispers. Some people I talked to from the Shore Conference that kind of Toms River North didn't feel that confident going into that game. They thought, RV just flat out might be a little too much for them, and it looked like that for a half. But then, that championship pedigree resurfaced. A couple defensive scores, and we talked about it when we were previewing that game. RV couldn't expect to, give up a lot of points and win that game, and that really was the difference with the turnovers. I think Township's going to be probably in a similar situation. They've been big, physical, dynamic with Robinson in the backfield. The quarterback's been a playmaker. And I think if Township can stick to their plan, the recipe has shown the last couple of weeks. Kingsway had a tight game there going to the fourth quarter, one tight game. RV had their chances. Can Township play 4 good quarters and finish it off?
Township played Kingsway and RV this season. They know them very well. I'm sure they're going to glean what they can out of the film. But, Mac, you always preach it. We've talked about on this show. Turnovers, mistakes, RV. I'm sure there's been a lot of sleepless nights for RV this week thinking about, 2 pick sixes in a row put you away.
Yeah.
Just like that. Take care of the football, right?
Toms River North, they don't flinch, right? They don't flinch. They've been here, done that. Again, any playoff time, you can't make mistakes. Got to control the football, no turnovers, all those things we talk about. But especially, and being at Toms River too, right? I mean, I just, it is what it is, right? But if this game was down at Township, you'd feel a little better.
They feel a little invincible
better.
Home right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's some energy there.
And I'm not saying, I'm not saying with the juju that Township has right now that they can't go up and go do something that 37 times before them hasn't been done. I mean, they're riding the wave right now. And if I'm coach, I'm squeezing every drop I can out of that. But the Mariners somehow have, Toms River North have a way for the last 10, 15 years of just when they need to click. Yeah.
And the same thing we said about Mainland, right? North's playing a tough schedule. They're playing Red Bank Catholic. They're playing Donovan Catholic when they're good. They're playing St. John Vianney. They're playing Point Burrow was a close game. They're playing Rumson. So they're playing the best teams in the Shore Conference. Yeah. They're battle tested every week. So they're used to playing these close games. And that shows up in the playoffs.
There's no question. You know what? And Kevin Emmons said, in the chat here, you've got to be able to run between the tackles with a lead against it. I mean, you got to be able to, when you're up, you can't be throwing it to the other side. I mean, you've got to make sure you drain that clock out.
Right.
Shoes on the other foot. Township likes to play inside the tackles, but Toms River North is big up front.
Yeah, and you can't be 3 and out, and you have to be able to move the ball. I mean, we faced them a couple times, and I mean, there were 2 heartbreakers in 14 and 15 playing Toms River. I can't tell you. I think it was 15 how many third downs they converted against us. We sat there in the coach's office, me, Coach Hendricks, Coach Woj, we're sitting there going, we just couldn't get off the field on third down. And you know what it was? It was Husney hop and go find a hole and go get 4 yards. I mean, they're not afraid to be in 3rd and 5. Eddie, they just been there.
It's kind of like, and that's the other thing, like experience, right? Because Township, as opposed to every team we previewed so far, and the two teams we're going to preview next, Winslow and Millville. Township wasn't a sectional champion last year. They ended that streak.
Right.
But at this point, they have a legitimate shot to win the Group 5 state title, as good as anybody else. They have to, go out there and start fast. It's like you can't be. You've been there, Mac. It's like the first quarter, the moment can't be too big.
Can't be,
especially when you're on the road against a quality team.
Can't be too big. And then when you do go out, you cannot rest on the laurels. You got to.
No.
You got to be where
That's why I say there's no doubt they can't get to the fourth quarter in this game.
It's a much different mindset, and I don't know how it's going to play out. And Coach Shasta and everybody will be ready to go, but it's a much different mindset when everybody's celebrating the sectional final. You haven't done it in 29 years. And Toms River North, Kevin Emmons was there. I can't speak to the celebration, but they're thinking about winning their third state championship in a row. The sectional final is a necessary step to that, but it's not something they didn't do last year, the year before that, or a number of years before that as well. We got some good comments in here. Quincy Harvey, my guy, I'm glad you're in here. Sam Cook. Also, Kevin Minnick's been in the chat. Kevin,
he was active last week.
Yeah,
What's
he was.
and
let me tell you what, he came up with the stat too. He tweeted out last night. I want to give a shout out here to RV Savion Adams, a quarterback, is only the 5th season that a South Jersey quarterback has thrown for 2,000 yards and rushed for 1,000 yards.
Did Belton do it twice?
Belton did it twice.
Yeah.
Dylan Cummings and
Cummins, yeah.
Cedar Creek. I can't remember the name. Kevin will put it in the chat here.
Mitchell.
Mitchell, right? Mitchell, Cedar Creek. So, esteemed company there for Adams. Dieter had a great year. He had a great game on Friday night. They really had a great season. But it's down to Toms River North and Washington Township. This thing is at Toms River North on Friday, I believe at 6 p.m. The other Damon Mitchell. The other semifinal, Union City at 10-1, had a miracle win against PCTI, I believe. Last second, if you need the video of that, I think Ryan Patty of NJ.com has it on his Twitter. And East Orange, 9-2, beat West Orange in the rivalry rematch.
Did you go up there, Mac? Shawnee's played Union City at Union
Yes,
City.
yes.
Have you been up there? The rooftop.
Been on the roof. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Little Christmas vibe up on the roof.
A little baseball
Now,
field.
they're a wing T team, right? They're under center, pound the ball type team in North Jersey. Is that Union City? I think they are. And they're. I know they're a big favorite over Orange from an SI standpoint.
Yes.
Their SI is a 90. I think Orange is around like a 75, which, no offense, that's probably like an 8-3 team this time of year. So they're a big favorite in that sectional and that state semifinal to come out and play the winner of North and Township. Yeah,
they are wing team.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to non-pubs. Non-public A, we talked about it last week. A huge win for St. Augustine. They upset Del Barton 9-7. The 6-seeded Hermits. Julian Turney, look, this is exactly what you have to do if you're the Hermits in playoff times. Give it to that running back who's one of the best in South Jersey. 31 carries, 134 yards, and a touchdown. Luke Tanzola, 45-yard field goal. Nick Costa on defense, a sack, 2 forced fumble recovery. Akeem Jones with 2 sacks. Huge win for St. Augustine. Let's talk about that first before we look to their next opponent. You said it last week.
Yeah, I think the recipe for Algies, obviously, the strength of their team is the offensive and defensive line. They held Winslow, if you can call it held, they held Winslow to 21 points. So had a big win over Millville, who is arguably the second best public school in the state right now, only behind Winslow. So Algies has been really good against some good teams. Okay, and then I think the recipe for them is win that low-scoring game. Last week, if Algies was going to win, I would have said, hey, you need a 14-7 type game, and they had it 7-3. Got the turnover, drove down, scored, took the lead 9-7. The defense held, and I think they'll have an opportunity again this week. They're playing Don Bosco. It's a team they matched up with a few years ago in 2021, and in Richland. Okay, and it was a 17-0 Bosco win, and that's probably was the best team Algies has had in a while. So these teams, there's a lot of familiarity, but that was a huge win. I think Del Barton was number 3 in the state, had a win over whatever the team in Parochial B is that's favored to win it by a long shot. DePaul. They have a win over DePaul, so that was a huge win for South Jersey, for Algies, and for for football down here.
Right, but when we were talking about Augies, we talk about Augies has to keep taking those steps, right? If you want to being a parochial school in these situations, yes, huge game against Del Barton. We know what Coach Lancetta wants to do, right? He wants to. I hate to say win it ugly, but that's what they want to do, right? You got Julian Turney's got 31 carries, right? 134 yards, control the football, causing turnovers, two forced fumbles for Nick Costa with a sack. I mean, just play the defense, control the ball. You know, I've been to Coach Lancetta's games over the years. I played for Coach Lancetta back a long time ago. You know, it's funny. I'm sure there's folks like a little bit, you know, cranky sometimes when he's coaching, right? Well, guess what? He doesn't care. Right? They're going to play Don Bosco this weekend, and you know what? And now everybody's going to be rooting for that ugly football that Coach Lancetta coaches, and that ugly football is the football I love watching in November, December.
So I wanted to ask, what are some of the factors when you're watching the game film? Like, are you thinking, all right, we're going to have to muddy the waters, or we're going to have to play ugly to win versus a team that you feel like we still can go shot for shot with?
Well, I think you said this last week, Mac. Like, you like to. I think it starts up front. Like, you look at the linemen. Who's winning the line of scrimmage? What guys are just guys you are going to be a problem? What guys do they like to run behind? What's their go-to stuff? And then obviously the guys on the outside. Who's their ball? How many guys can get the ball? How many playmakers do they have? Who do we have to stop to be in the game? I mean that's where I kind of start with things when I'm scouting.
When we played Violent in the first round in 2017,
Pacheco.
I was terrified to see him.
Had another guy too, Anderson.
Pacheco. Anderson went to Maryland. Pacheco, obviously, when he did. So the week before they lost to Augie, and I got the Augie film, and it didn't surprise me what I saw. Fortunately, we did things similar to what Augie does, where Coach Lance said he's not afraid to put the extra tackle in the game. He's not afraid to put the tight, the over, the unders, and the tight end and the unbalanced stuff. And then he's going to make you line up. And Rod, to answer your question, he doesn't look like, I say he. To him, it's not ugly. It's just he's got patience and patience and patience. And you know what? And if you don't line up right and you don't gap sound on him, he's going to beat your brains off. And he's not afraid to run the same play. I don't even say 2 times in a row. He'll run the same play 4 times in a row, 5 times in a row. And then
I text Coach P probably as soon as he got on the bus when they won. I was excited for him, man. That was a great win for our guys down here, And I'm a public school guy, but hey, I think looking at it, a couple weeks ago, and I know Kevin Minnick put a tweet out. I think you could have made the argument that Augie should have been seated higher. I think you could have made the argument that Holy Spirit and St. Thomas should have been seated higher. But, and we'll get to Holy Spirit in a minute, they both proved that, hey, at least they held up their end of the bargain and they won. Right. And you can have, and I think going forward next year, that holds weight because the parochial, people don't know, they're seated by committee.
Subjective,
they're not PowerPoints, SI doesn't matter. They look at your body of work, and I hate to say this because I have these discussions dealing with the Battle of the Beach, but the private schools up north, they do not care about our public schools down here. They don't want to play them. I've tried to match up. Hey, Coach Bergen Catholic, St. Peter's, Millville. It was a few years ago, Rutgers or somebody like that. They don't care how Winslow's obviously have a ton of guys coming back. They don't want to play those schools because they feel like it's not who they're competing against. It's not, their market or whatever you want to call it. So when Augie's lost to, RV or they're playing public schools, doesn't matter how good Winslow is or how good RV might be. They just don't hold the same weight in those seeding meetings. And I'm glad our guys won to prove them wrong.
Yeah, big win for
Big
Prep.
win.
And they're going to go to Don Bosco at 7 p.m. on Friday night. The 2 seed, the Ironmen, ended the Hermit season in 2021 and 2022. They beat St. Joe Metuchen last week, 46-6. Kyle Ramos had a scoop and score. Devin Sisler went 5 of 9, the quarterback position, for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both touchdowns to Isaiah Alvarez. Dante DeLuca ran 10 times for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. The other semifinal is Bergen Catholic, the 1 seed. We saw them in battle at the beach against IMG Academy. Mighty powerful squad.
Is that their own loss?
St. Joe Montvale. Yeah, they're 9-1. St. Joe Montvale 6-4. So I mean, if the Hermits can get to that championship game, it's a big deal for them. It's a big deal for South Jersey as well. And you mentioned the other parochial, non-Pub B. We got Holy Spirit, the 4 seed at DePaul, the 1 seed, 6 p.m. Spartans versus Spartans. So Holy Spirit beat St. Thomas Aquinas in a thriller last week at home, 35-31. Ty Costabile, 10 for 13, 226, and 3 touchdowns. Pops Ward, 25 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brady Colby caught 80 yards worth of passes for a touchdown. Ryan Mallon also caught 82 yards worth of passes for a touchdown. You watched the film. What did that game show to you?
Tremendous game. It's Holy Spirit finding a way to win. St. Thomas saw them last year in the start off 2023 at Battle of the Beach. They hammered Paul VI, with their new coach at that time, and this was year 2 in that program coming down to Holy Spirit. I thought both teams could have been the 2 seed in that group. Holy Spirit deserving. It was in Holy Spirit, little advantage there, and just tremendous back and forth game. It was Holy Spirit would put a long drive together. St. Thomas would run the kickoff back. What stood out to me in that game was there was a sequence in the fourth quarter. It's like almost hard to believe. Remind me of, I told Mark this morning, Tom Brady against the Chargers in the playoffs. Holy Spirit was down 31-28. They threw a pick, or it was like a strip fumble after a catch. Thomas is running it back about 15 yards, and Holy Spirit takes the ball from him, gets the ball back, drives down, scores a few plays later. And it wasn't over yet. St. Thomas had the ball on the 3-yard line, 1st and goal, and the Holy Spirit defense held strong. And then they had a 3rd and short, or Ron, you mentioned earlier, one of the games you saw, Camden, I believe. They had a 3rd and short deep in Holy Spirit territory. They snapped the ball over the quarterback's head, turned a 3rd and 3 into a 4th and 15. And Spirit held, ran out the clock. I said at the mark, I said, St. Thomas runs the ball very well. And they had a 1st and goal from the 3. Ended up with a 3rd and goal from the 11. That's hard to do, Mac.
Right.
So credit to Holy Spirit, man. Huge win.
Look, I think if you roster these teams, you look in the old gym class. I'm putting one group on a wall and one group on a wall. You're probably taking DePaul, in the gym class matchup. But here's the deal: Spirit has always seems to find a way. Well coached, both sides of the ball, and getting shunned a little bit on their seating. Look, I'm in their locker room. I'm coach. I'm going, hey, we wanted to play DePaul anyway. We're going to get them sometime.
They're schematically well coached on offense as any team. They will go, first off, they'll play 4-down football anywhere on the field. Yeah. They will go 5 wide and throw the ball. Even against Millville in their lone loss at Battle of the Beach, they had guys with opportunity. The quarterback was very close for them to have more success than they did. They get guys open. Okay, they find matchups. Their tape against St. Thomas was very impressive. And
even the first half against DeMath a couple years ago, they threw the ball down the field.
They'll go 5 wide. They'll go 2 backs and run power counter football.
They're so multiple.
They're as diverse and well coached on offense as any program in South Jersey, I think, and that's no disrespect to anybody else.
I agree.
And I think if you look at it on paper, like you said, we're not playing dodgeball. We're not running a track competition. DePaul is the favorite, but they lost to Del Barton, a team that Augie's just beat, a team that Holy Spirit, has a win over.
Right.
So it's the old, hey, if A beats B, B beats C, maybe A can beat D.
Listen, one thing I do know, Spirit is not intimidated. Will not be intimidated by DePaul.
Nah, they got a shot.
Yeah, they got a shot, no doubt. And DePaul, look, DePaul's loaded, and the being multiple and opportunities like when you go up with the quiver that Holy Spirit can show up with on offense and fundamentally sound on defense and being involved. Spirit's the one team I think over the years, when you look at funky games in South Jersey, it seems like they've been in more funky situations of goofy stuff that could happen in a game, and it doesn't faze them.
Well, look, I'll say this, and to the comments points, I mean, the reason why they think some of the publics can play with non-pubs is because St. Augustine's proved they can play in some of these games. Sometimes St. Augustine isn't the best team in South Jersey. Like Winslow could play with
no
team
doubt about
Prep just beat. They beat Prep by 2 touchdowns and held them to a lot fewer yards than Turney didn't run for as many yards against Winslow as he did last week. So that's the point. I'm not saying on a 10-game scale like Bergen Catholic should come play Millville. But,
No, but
that's why they say,
yeah.
well, maybe they should play a couple of the games against some of the non-pubs because there is a lot of
I think it's also what you're familiar with.
public
We
teams
see
as
these
well.
schools every week, right? We see these quality public school programs up there. They don't have the depth that we do in the public schools, in my opinion.
Right.
So when they think of a Group 4 team that's supposed to be good, they think, oh, that team can't compete with us, a public school or whatever. And just like we know Group 1 and Group 2 schools down here can play with anybody when they're very good.
Absolutely.
By evidence of Glassboro's defense, very good. Or Paulsboro, et cetera, on a given year. Okay, Haddonfield, West. You take your pick. Okay. I think I'm excited because Holy Spirit and St. Augie's got another opportunity this week to win it, make a final. I think Holy Spirit's been here before. 2 years ago, they went toe-to-toe at Red Bank Catholic in a tight game. Came down, didn't go their way. But, like you said, Holy Spirit's got these crazy games where they're never out of it, man. Back against the wall, they're going to get a stop, go 90 yards, come up with a trick play. They'll go for it, 4th and 10 on their own 20.
Yeah.
They play a style of football that's wild.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no question. Now, I mean, DePaul is on another level, as they're saying in the chat. They rolled Paul to 6 last week, 45-14. Derek Zammit at quarterback, 10 of 14, 215, 3 touchdowns. All 3 to star wide receiver Desi Jones, 6 for 121 and 3 touchdowns. Nolan James Jr. 12 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you're looking for any reason that Spirit could pull the upset, look at the bottom of the bracket. As 10 seed, St. John Vianney beat Red Bank Catholic, the 2 seed last week. They'll play at Pope John, the 6 seed, in the other semifinal. I'm not.
I think you
I'm
can
not
make the case
saying
this
that-
is the final.
Yeah, right.
Because, we said Holy Spirit was probably underseeded. They could have been the 2.
Well, as I
RBC
said-
lost. This is kind of like, hey, you win this. This is maybe a final.
Well, coach is like, we had to play
You know?
DePaul anyway, so here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah,
At DePaul.
100%.
Whatever.
no question about it. We still have a game of the week to preview. It's a game many of you, I'm sure, are excited to see. It's a game that's going to stand alone in South Jersey on Saturday at 1 p.m. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be there. You're going to get there early because there's going to be not a lot of seats for the amount of people that want to sit down. We're going to talk about that. The Group 4 state semifinal, one of our games of the year in South Jersey that many have predicted from the beginning we would see. It will be at Winslow Township, and we'll talk about it right after this break of the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show's presenting sponsor is the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 4 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated close to $80,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. The group has also donated to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by SRA Home Products. South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects in the Delaware Valley. I've had nothing but the best to say about Mike Fody in the time I've had the chance to be around him and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up Best of South Jersey awards throughout their past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online at srahomeproducts.com. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show is also sponsored by the NJFOA South Officials Association. Are you passionate about football? Don't wait. Become a part of the NJFOA South Officials Association and join them to help officiate high school football games. With a diverse community of more than 250 members, they proudly oversee every high school football game in South Jersey, setting the standard for officiating in the state. By joining the chapter, you will become part of a team that upholds the highest standards in the game. They are more than just officials. They're advocates for sportsmanship, integrity, and guardians of player safety, champions of fair play. They offer the proper training to ensure you're ready to make the calls and uphold the values. Ready to put on the stripes and join the team? Visit www.njfoasouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. That's www.njfoa-south.org. njfosouth.org and hit Join Us to register now. Elevate your love for the game and become a football official with NJFOA South. Welcome back, folks, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. Earlier this season, it seemed clear to most Millville and Winslow were on a collision course with one another. They played in the regular season at Millville, and Winslow made that collision course a pretty one-way collision course. They rolled over the Bolts on the road. They made their statement. They made their claim to top seed in South Jersey. They've been that all year, blowing out teams. The closest game was against St. Augustine, who will play in the non-public A semifinals. It was a 2-touchdown game. Other than that, they really haven't been close to being touched. They're going to host Millville in the rematch, a game where, if you think about Millville, it hasn't been very many times over the past 5 years or so that Millville's coming to the game as an underdog, and this will be one of them. Saturday, 1 p.m. at Winslow Township. If you get there early enough, remember, you never go wrong with the walking taco from the snack stand. That's my yearly plug for the walking taco. You know I got to get it in there, Rod. Winslow won the South Jersey Group 4 championship last week, beating Shawnee 32-8. Jalen Parker, not a bad performance from Parker. 13 of 15, 217 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm sure he would tell you, well, I had 2 incompletions.
I was just going to say, did he have 2? I was there. It didn't feel like he had any, Rod.
The ball very rarely touches the ground when he's throwing it. No. Cam Miller, 4 receptions, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nakeem Powell ran for a touchdown. Marcus Upton caught a touchdown. Let's touch on quickly what Millville did, and then I want to get into this Shawnee review of the Winslow game because you were there. Millville beat Brick Memorial 48-7 in the Group 4 championship game. Robbie O'Connor threw for $147 and a touchdown. Jamal Wallace, this kid's really come on. 23 carries, 156 yards, 4 touchdowns. Reggie Holly receiving touchdown. Darian Blakewitz scores on the ground as well. Brooks did not play in this game. He will play in the next game. The other semifinals, Ramapo at Phillipsburg. All right, Mac, what did you see from Winslow? What do you say moving forward?
Well, they didn't make many mistakes. And I tell you, I was impressed. As much as Dalen Parker, you just said 13 for 15 for 200 plus yards, and Cam Miller's Cam Miller. They can run the ball. And everybody, I get eye rolls. Hey, Mac, you love them. Yeah, I do like to run. And when you can run the ball, you can't stuff the box with 8 guys against Winslow, because then he'll throw the ball 20 for 25. Mm-hmm. Shawnee got an opening kickoff fumble, went down, drove, kept the ball on the ground. Cole Anderson, Brent Lundberg, that big offensive line, Mason Grabowski, what a season, what a career for him, heading to Cornell. They scored, went up early. And, Winslow took the lead. Shawnee, again, you look at points in the game. Shawnee had an opportunity at the end of the second quarter. The game was 12-8. They're on the 20. They had a holding penalty. We're going backwards a little bit. They turn the ball over on downs, and then Winslow gets that score right before half to go up 18-8. Mm-hmm. And, 2 more scores in the second half. That first touchdown pass Coach and I were talking about before we went on camera, he just threaded it between 4 Shawnee kids, single high safety. It was a post. They had him over, undered, left and right. And, I think they were determined to get Cam the ball at that point. And he made a throw, Coach. I don't know if you've seen on film. He made a throw, Rod, against the wind from hash to the other out. And I turned to the guy. I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. I don't mean physically you're not supposed to do that. I go, you're not supposed to do that in football. You're not supposed to throw the out to the wide side of the field. I don't care what cover they're in. Press 2, cover 3, cover man. I don't care what.
Not in high school with wide hashes.
Not the high school with the wide hash. Coach, it was a 50-yard pass to gain 7 yards. And he roped it and caught it. And, Shawnee was playing off a little bit, but that just gives you an idea. He's confident in his arm. Usually the sideways wind throws quarterbacks off. Like when you ask quarterback, does the range bother? No, wind bothers. It's like golfers. Wind bothers quarterbacks. And the crosswinds, which it was all day.
You wouldn't know it, right?
13 for 15. 13 for 15. Plus, having the run game. So Winslow, I haven't seen Millville live this year. That was the first time I saw Winslow. I've seen Millville plenty of times live over the last couple of years. I was shocked that Winslow did what they did earlier in the season to Millville. Yeah. But now that I saw Winslow live, they're a complete football team. I mean, offense, defense, run the ball, pass the ball, Cam Miller, Jalen. I mean,
the thing that stood out to me, obviously you've got a vested interest. Your son's on Shawnee, and you see them every week. And you point out, it's not just the throws he's making, right? He's throwing into quadruple coverage, and the ball's on a rope. It's his decision making is really good. So you're in the zone, right? And you got 3-4 guys out on a concept, and he's making a good decision every time. Right. And I always said that when I had good quarterbacks. It's like, forget about like the ball you throw. If you read the coverage right and you go to the right guy, then you got a great chance to be successful.
Well, look,
and he's doing that every time. 13 for 15. He's finding the guy, man, every time.
You brought up Tom Brady. Sometimes he threw an ugly ball. But if you throw an ugly ball to the right guy, you usually are in pretty good shape.
He looks good because I haven't watched Parker much.
Hey, by the way, he doesn't throw an ugly ball, this kid.
No, he doesn't.
This kid, he throws a tight, nice.
I mean, one thing about Parker is he's been playing quarterback at the youth level for a very long time.
It's his position, yes.
Right. So a lot of times those quarterbacks that come from the youth program, they don't get developed the way that they should. One thing that they have done over there at Winslow is continue the growth of him. So you guys are talking about the decision making, the arm strength. These are the arm strength and things like that we've seen. He had it, but the decision making and understanding where to go with the ball, what's the right read, and what he's seeing. He's on pace.
I mean, we've seen quarterbacks
great stuff.
I mean, I think back to last year when they put him into Washington Township. They put him on the road. He threw a touchdown pass on his first play.
Right.
Hey, maybe Winslow's got something to say. He doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
They probably have a lot better chance based off this year of maybe winning that state title last year.
Rod, to your point,
they got robbed a little bit there.
There's plenty of quarterbacks that have cannons of arms. Yeah. That. I mean, again, we go to the pros. I mean, the Brett Favres of the world, right? I mean, he could chuck it 80 yards on a rope, but sometimes he wasn't throwing it to the right guy at the right time, at the right spot, forcing a play. He takes what the defenses give him.
He's reading coverage really well.
He's reading coverages, and I'll go back. They can run the football. 433. Well,
did we talk about Millville's win yet?
Yeah.
Because I want to talk. We could talk about this game. I think that's what stood out to me. Right? So Millville's kind of like Glassboro, like Salem was there. They're playing that 5-3. It's one high coverage. They're locking you down on the back end, and if you're going to throw the ball, you're not going to have much time. What I thought that stood out to me in the first matchup, watching what was the game of the year at that point, was Winslow's ability to run the ball. Millville kind of was like almost daring them to run, and Winslow took it. Winslow took it. So I think in this matchup, and I don't know Winslow's guys more than I know Millville guys because they've been so good for the last few years. But Millville has some household names on the offensive and defensive line, guys that have started 3-4 years. Yeah. And it's like, can they come to play and impact the game much greater than the first time? The first time Winslow kind of had their way, got ahead, and kind of were able to cruise. But Rod, I expect Millville to play much better. Rod, on defense.
I want to do the run game justice. Who am I missing? I got 4. 4 is
Ali.
Ali, right? 33. Duckett and
Peterson. Powell's 21. And Peterson also.
Peterson and Powell.
Coach.
Yeah, they have about and
they're all different type of players. 4 can fly.
And the other part of it is,
Coach, but you would put anyone at 7 yards behind you, next to your quarterback, and be like, okay.
But here's another one. Cam Miller started out as a running back as well, so they have guys that they can kind of move around and do some things with. That's what makes them very dangerous offensively. Is everybody that pretty much plays wide receiver has some running back experience.
Right, and then on the converse, you put that running back type kid in the spread scheme. Right. Now he's catching ball in space,
and he knows how to make a man miss,
and he can run through guys and 2 guys, and
it becomes a matchup problem for. I'm not talking about from Millville. I'm talking about for teams when they're looking at it. It's like, okay, we got to match up with Cam Miller. What are we going to do with him? Then we have Helton on the other side. Okay, we can't just leave him. What are we going? All right, they're going to put Ali in the slot. Who's going to match up him?
He ain't got enough guys. He ain't got enough guys.
But I want us to touch on that point, Rod, and it is a good one. Every week there's another guy for Winslow, and I mean T.J. Maddox is another. Boomer Helton didn't even make the stat sheet. Look at his numbers. Upton made it. I mean, Benji Carter on the DN, Hurd. You can go down the list, every position. They have a lot of great players, a lot of talent, but there's no. I don't get the ball. I didn't get it this. And you can say whatever you want about, you try to win the game. No, to have that many talented players who could go somewhere and get the ball thrown to them every play.
Right.
And instead, everybody is singleness of purpose, singleness of mission. And you have to give credit to Coach Belton for that. There is no bickering about who gets the ball and who doesn't. They all go out and perform their job on every snap. That's pretty impressive with the level of talent that they have, and I think he's done a great job with that. And Millville on the other side of the ball is a team that they're very accomplished. I mean, this is not nobody. They're playing on Saturday.
I think Millville. I think the difference in the two teams, right? So the difference in the two teams. You look at Winslow last year, even though they didn't play Millville and Mainland, battled out in the sectional final. I think last year Winslow had the inexperience at quarterback with the freshman, and now even though he's a sophomore, Millville the first time. That's where they showed their inexperience, the quarterback. And you said it, Rod. I think people underestimate the Winslow defense. They brought 9 starters back. And Upton, we had the D2 event at West Deptford.
Yep.
Upton is probably my favorite player on Winslow. He's safety. He can play linebacker. Looks like a linebacker. He's a freak. Okay, I love that guy. And you plug him in there with 9 other guys, and now all of a sudden, as good as Brooks is, one of the 5 best players, let's say, offensively in South Jersey history. No doubt about any position, in my opinion. And but they have so many guys on the back end that I think Millville has got to, try a different style. They got to run the ball, which they've done recently. Had a guy the other night got the the academic award. He looked like a grown man.
Yeah.
He had 4 touchdowns last week.
Great player.
That's what Millville's going to have to do, because I don't think you don't want to go strength on strength at the skill positions. I think Millville up front is where they have a lot of talent, and that's where we're going to have to try to win this game.
There haven't been many games. I said they haven't been an underdog. There also haven't been many games where, and we've touched on this before, when you go into a playoff game, it's either we run our stuff and we're going to be okay, or we got to switch what we do to. There haven't been many games where Millville has to switch what they do in the last 5 years coming into a game. What you're saying is, load up on Wallace, run the ball, take some clock, do your thing. That's not indicative of Millville versus anybody else. They can go do whatever they want against anybody else. But it only matters, it's down to one game. And you know what? Everybody's going to be there to see it.
Prior to the first time they played, I hadn't seen Winslow. Yeah. I've now seen Winslow. As we said, I was ground level. Right, I wanted to see some ground level. I wanted to see up top. I wanted to see the win show, and it was impressive. I mean, it wasn't just. I mean, it was calculated. It was 13 for 15. It was run the ball when needed. It was make stops when needed.
Yeah. It
was control the football. It was not many penalties, not if any. I mean, it was tight and. It's as we say, it's tough to beat a team twice in a season. It's going to be a heck of a football game.
These are maybe the 2 best public schools in the state.
And Townsville North.
I think Union City.
And Union City.
I don't know enough about Union City. I'm from the teams, from what I've seen, the body of work. Like you said, you're saying this is the first game. Probably is in 3 years that Millville's an underdog. And if they won, it wouldn't surprise me because they're good. But I think the credit to Winslow is, and this is going to be what we see from Millville, is I saw Winslow battle the beach. They won a game where they dominated, but it was 21-7, 21-0. They've gotten better and better every week. The quarterback is playing really well, and he has a ton of weapons. And I think when Millville played them the first time, they came out and they tried to run a trick play early in the game. They fumbled it. They turned it over. And it's one of those, when you're playing Winslow, man, you're going to give them the ball twice to start each half. You're going to give them the ball right away. And then they never could, like, get on their feet, you know, and they could never get in a rhythm. And I think going back to the games that they've lost, you know, the last couple of years, and it hasn't been many, you know, it's
Slow
like
start.
it's either a slow start and it's kind of you're coming from behind. And maybe they kind of give up on the run a little bit because Millville, you got the guy playing at Syracuse. What's his name? Gatorade Player of the Year. When you had Quinn Allen, it was a spread offense, but it was a pound the ball. You know, and they've done that at times over the last 4 years.
So that's what I was going to say. I think this game is going to come down to how it came down in the first game. All the skills, all the guys who can run and throw the ball, they matter. Yeah. But where the game is going to be won is in the trenches. Who is going to be able to control that line of scrimmage? Because at the same time, we're talking about running the ball and controlling the clock. Those guys up front are the ones that's going to establish that. I don't care who you have in the backfield. If you're not able to match up with the run scheme and get good blocks and give them holes in the alleys and things like that,
no doubt.
It's not even
Millville takes pride in playing great defense.
Right.
I'm sure they were not happy with how that game
first
went.
Game, yeah.
And even last year, they played at Battle of the Beach and they lost to Toms River North, a 14-7 game. Mm-hmm. They do not typically give up a lot of points.
Well, I'll say
that's going to be a unit that's eager to prove something.
There's two things that stand out to me about that first game. The first is that, as you said, Millville didn't do anything on offense. Right, they scored they had a fumble return deep into the ends, into the red zone, and they scored it on a 1st and goal situation. I think the other thing was coming out of halftime, they were still in the game, and Winslow had 4th and long and threw that touchdown pass to Cam in the back left corner over the safety, and it was an excellent. I mean, it was a remarkable pass catch. It wasn't even bad defense. I mean, the safety just barely missed it, but that was enough. If that ball's incomplete, it's 14-7, and you know if some butts were candy nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But the bottom line is, for most of the first half and into the second, it was a close game with Millville doing nothing on offense. Now things have changed, but I will say this: I think it is not a bad thing for Millville that they've had a number of weeks where they've been completely under the radar because everybody says, well, they already got pounded by Winslow, and Winslow's in their same group, and you know what are we talking about?
Here's my last point on this too. Millville is a team that has a long history of winning, especially this group of kids with the Dawkins, you know, Brooks. You know, they've had guys, Wallace. They've had guys that have been winning for a very long time, from the midgets all the way up to the high school. So if it's one thing that they can kind of lean back on is that winning pedigree. All right, the first time they got the best of us, it doesn't matter. Now is when it matters. You know, if they can just, you know, focus on that winning mentality, go in.
I think you're right. Roger's right. I mean, how many games has probably Brooks lost in his life?
It's not very many. They've had good program. Yeah.
You can't count them on two hands.
But to that point, Rod, too, is a good point that not only do you say, well, look, that was then and this is now, but that's a whole, how long has it been? I mean, it's flown by like this, but it's been 6 or 7 or 8 weeks where you got embarrassed by, I mean, these, not just how many games have they lost, Millville doesn't get embarrassed.
No.
By anyone.
Exactly. So, I mean,
I think that's the thing.
That's
going back to
as
2021,
well.
So they played in that 2021 bowl game where Brooks' freshman year, Millville beat them pretty handily.
Quint ran 45
the
times.
The de facto, state title at that point.
Yeah, when
I don't think they played since. And there's a lot of chirping like, "Hey, Winslow, way to the Winslow-Millville rematch." Yeah. It didn't happen last year. So Winslow, it's almost like Alabama and Georgia. Like they're both very good. It's like a game could go either way when they meet. And Winslow had been wanting that game for a few years. They had a chip on their shoulder. Now Millville, it's like the get back, right? Can you get back and can you take back that title? You know, that's it, man.
How great is it that it's our only game on Saturday for South Jersey? I think it's going to be wonderful.
Fantastic
atmosphere. I think everybody and their mother's going to be. My mother's not going to be there. Well,
I texted Bill today because I don't know how many tickets they're going to sell, but I'm sure they're going to sell this out. Yeah, it's going to be standing room only, I'm sure. And I hope everyone gets to see it.
It's going to be a great day, though.
It's going to be a great game. I I want to give a shout out, of course, to Rod, who you just heard there, and his company, D2 Sports Network, for all they've done this season and continue to do for South Jersey Athletics. He gets it all done in this show at beautiful Studio B. Couldn't do a better job. I can't recommend a first-class studio any better than this one. If you have photography, podcasting, any type of needs, be sure to reach out to Rod, and he'll be able to help you out. He's doing the best job of anybody in South Jersey this year. You know that. Rod is always making it happen. Fellas, I hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully, I'll see you at some of the games. I know everybody out here will be tuned in. We'll have this thing on Spotify. Share out the video, share out the audio, whatever. Everybody get hyped for the state semifinals. And we'll be back next week to talk state finals and the 5 or 6 Turkey Day games, I guess.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
I mean,
he's ripped the paper.
We are moved on.
We are on to the weekend. We are on to the state semifinals.
Go Hoosiers! I know Rod's me and Rod. Yeah, OHIO over there, and
Buckeyes.
he's all buckeyed up. It should be interesting. So a lot of good football going on. A lot of big time high school football, local.
Yeah. Enjoy a great weekend of football. We'll see you back here next week. Congratulations to all the participants, and we'll see what happens. The South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. We'll see you next time.